How are you guys doing? I'm winding down at 2:30. I'm reading. I thought you might want to share this reading with me. Maybe you need a bedtime story. I don't know, but I'm so excited. I just made this ginger turmeric with fresh turmeric roots that I got from Nicole, who's a local farmer, and fresh ginger root. And I blended them together in my high-speed blender with lemon juice. And I've just been taking like a teaspoon a day or more. And then I realized, oh my God, I can just add hot water to it and have the best hot ginger turmeric tea. Oh my God. Mm. So I have not read this book completely. I've read little snippets of it. I took one contact out. So I'm going to like close one eye as I read because one eye, like without contacts, I read better. And so it looks weird. So I'm wearing sunglasses so I don't just look weird to you the whole time. Um, I probably still look weird, but that's okay. But if you guys don't know who I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but Thich Nhat Hanh, if you don't know who this is, he is a Zen master. He's a peacemaker, and he's an author of 35 books, including Living Buddha, Living Christ, Being Peace, and the Heart of the Buddha's Teaching, which was nominated by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. for the Nobel Peace Prize. So I thought in Martin Luther King Jr.'s honor, we would read something that by the author that he nominated. What Thich Nhat Hanh teaches is the art of mindful living. So I thought it would be good to just add this content here. I know I've been putting out a lot of content lately, but hey, that's good for the dry spells. You got something to go back on. I haven't put on a live reading in so long, and I thought we deserved that nourishment today. So I flipped to chapter 8. We're just going to skip to chapter 8. I don't know if we're going to read the whole chapter. It's only like 10 pages. That might be too long, though. Actually, it's more like 20. Well, we'll read at least 3 or 4 pages, and then we'll see how we're feeling. So let's see if any of these words feel like they are making us all the wiser. Or maybe it's just relaxing to hear someone share their thoughts. All right. Living mindfully together. Think about your first love, how it came about, where it took place, what brought you to that moment. Recall the details of the experience and look at them calmly and deeply with compassion and understanding. That's an interesting thought. You will discover things you did not notice the first time. So right. Similar to matrix therapy. JR, hey, I was just thinking about you. You will discover that your first love was not really the first. Many streams nourish and support the river of your life. Your first love has no beginning and no end. It is always in transformation. Your first love is still present, continuing to shape your life. When you are serene, smiling, and breathing mindfully, I am sure you will understand. Where is the self? Where is the non-self? Who is your first love? Who was the last? What is the difference between your first love and your last love? Whether water is overflowing or evaporating depends on the season. Whether it is round or square depends on the container. Flowing in spring, solid in winter, its immensity cannot be measured. Its source cannot be found. In an emerald creek, water hides a dragon king. In a cold pond, it contains the bright full moon. On the Bodhisattva's willow branch, it sprays the nectar of compassion. One drop is enough to purify and transform the world in 10 directions. Can you grasp water through form? Can you trace it to its source? Do you know where it will end? It is the same with your first love. We should have a sound when we turn the page, like children's books. Your first love has no beginning and will have no end. It is still alive in the stream of your being. Don't think it was only in the past. Look deeply into the nature of your first love, and you will see the Buddha. The practice of mindfulness is the practice of love. It is important to learn the art of mindful living before entering any new relationship, especially the journey of mutual discovery that takes place in a marriage. If you do not come to know yourselves well, practicing looking deeply in order to discover all the flowers and all the garbage that are in you, not just those of your own making, but those you received from your ancestors and from society, your marriage will be difficult. When you enter a relationship, you feel excitement, enthusiasm, and the willingness to explore. But you may not really understand yourself or the other person very well yet. Living together 24 hours a day, you see, hear, and experience many things you have not seen or imagined before. When you fell in love, you constructed a beautiful image that you projected onto your partner, and now you are a little shocked as your illusions disappear and you discover the reality. Unless you know how to practice mindfulness together, looking deeply into yourself and your partner, you may find it difficult to sustain your love through this period. Warm tea. In Buddhist psychology, the word samyojana refers to internal formations, fetters, or knots. When someone says something unkind to us, for example, if we do not understand why he said it, and we become irritated, a knot will be tied in us. The lack of understanding is the basis for every internal knot. It is difficult for our mind to accept that it has negative feelings like anger, fear, and regret. So, it finds ways to bury these in remote areas of our consciousness. Stretch a little bit. Ugh. We create elaborate defense mechanisms to deny their existence. But these problematic feelings are always trying to surface. If we practice mindfulness, we can learn the skill of recognizing a knot the moment it is tied in us and finding ways to untie it. Internal formations need our full attention as soon as they form, while they are still loosely tied, so that the work of untying them will be easy. Otherwise, they will grow tighter and stronger. The first step in dealing with unconscious internal formations is to try to bring them into awareness. Completely, because once they're in awareness, you can untie the knot. Mhm. We meditate practicing conscious breathing to gain access to them. They might reveal themselves as images, feelings, thoughts, words, or actions. We may notice a feeling of anxiety and ask, why did I feel so uncomfortable when she said that? Or why do I keep doing that? Or why did I hate that character in the movie so much? Observing ourselves closely can bring an internal formation into view. And as we shine the light of our mindfulness on it, it begins to reveal its face. We may feel some resistance to continuing to look at it, but if we have developed the capacity to sit still and observe our feelings, the source of the knot will slowly reveal itself and give us an idea how to untie it. Practicing like this, we come to know our internal formations and we make peace with ourselves. Sounds like matrix therapy a lot. When we live with another person, it is important to practice this way. To protect each other's happiness, we must learn to transform the internal formations we produce together as soon as they arise. One woman told me that 3 days after her wedding, she received several large internal formations from her husband, and she kept them to herself for 30 years. She was afraid that if she told him, there would be a fight. How can we be happy like that with no real communication? When we are not mindful in our daily life, we plant the seeds of suffering in the very person we love. I'll say that one more time. When we are not mindful in our daily life, we plant the seeds of suffering in the very person we love. But when both partners are still light and not filled with too many knots, the practice is not difficult. Together we look at the misunderstanding that created the knot, and then we untie it. For example, if we hear our husband exaggerating to his friends about something he did, we may feel a knot being tied inside us in the form of some disrespect for him. But if we discuss it with him right away, the two of us can come to a clear understanding and the knot will be untied easily. If we practice the art of mindful living together, we can do this. We see that the other person, like us, has both flowers and garbage inside. And we accept this. Our practice is to water the flower in her and not bring her more garbage. We avoid blaming and arguing. When we try to grow flowers, if the flowers do not grow well, we do not blame or argue with them. We blame ourselves for not taking care of them well. Our partner is a flower. If we take care of her well, she will grow beautifully. If we take care of her poorly, she will wither. To help a flower grow well, we must understand her nature. How much water does she need? How much sunshine? We look deeply into ourselves to see our true nature, and we look into the other person to see her nature. In the Buddhist tradition, we speak of the oneness of body and mind. Whatever happens to the body also happens to the mind. The sanity of the body is the sanity of the mind. The violation of the body is the violation of the mind. When we are angry, we may think that we are angry in our feelings, not in our body, but that is not true. When we love someone, we want to be close to him or her physically. But when we're angry at someone, we don't want to touch or be touched by that person. We cannot say that body and mind are separate. A sexual relationship may be an act of deep communion between body and spirit. This is a very important encounter, not to be done in a casual manner. You know that in your soul, there are certain areas, memories, pain, secrets that are private that you would only share with the person you love and trust the most. You do not open your heart and show it to just anyone. In the imperial city, there is a zone you cannot approach called the Forbidden City. Only the king and his family are permitted to circulate there. There is a place in your soul like that you do not allow anyone to approach except the one you love and trust the most. The same is true of our body. Our bodies have areas that we do not want anyone to touch or approach unless he or she is the one we respect, trust, and love the most. When we are approached casually or carelessly with an attitude that is less than tender, we feel insulted in our body and soul. Someone who approaches us with respect, tenderness, and utmost care is offering us deep communication, deep communion. It is only in that case that we will not feel hurt, misused, or abused, even a little. This cannot be attained unless there is true love and commitment. Casual sex cannot be described as love. Love is deep, beautiful, and whole. In sexual relationships, respect is one of the most important elements. Sexual communion should be like a rite, a ritual performed in mindfulness with great respect, care, and love. If you are motivated by some desire that is not love, desire is not love. Oh, if you are motivated by some desire, that is not love. Desire is not love. Love is something much more responsible. It has care in it. In Asia, we say there are three sources of energy: sexual, breath, and spirit. Jing, qi, and shen. Jing, sexual energy, is the first. When you have more sexual energy than you need, there is an imbalance in your body and in your being, and you need to reestablish the balance. According to Taoism and Buddhism, there are practices to help you do this, including meditation and martial arts. The second source of energy is qi, breath energy. Life can be described as a process of burning. In order to burn, every cell in our body needs nutrition and oxygen. In his fire sermon, the Buddha said, "The eyes are burning, the nose is burning, the body is burning." In our daily lives, we have to cultivate our energy by practicing proper breathing. We benefit from the air and its oxygen, so we have to be sure that non-polluted air is available to us. Some people cultivate their qi, refraining from smoking and talking, or by practicing conscious breathing after talking a lot. When you speak, take the time to breathe. At Plum Village, every time we hear the bell of mindfulness, Everyone stops what they're doing and breathes consciously 3 times. We practice this way to cultivate and preserve our chi energy. Let's do that. Breathe 3 times. The third source of energy is Shen, spirit energy. When you don't sleep at night, or when you worry a lot, you lose some kind of energy, some of this kind of energy. That's interesting. The spirit energy is what you get when you sleep, eh? Mm. Your nervous system becomes exhausted, and you cannot study or practice meditation well or make good decisions. And if you're like me, you drop things or bump into things. That's a sign, too, that my Shen's off balance. You don't have a clear mind because of lack of sleep and or from worrying too much. Worry and anxiety drain the source of energy. So don't worry. Don't stay up too late. Keep your nervous system healthy. Prevent anxiety. These kinds of practices cultivate the third source of energy. You need this source of energy to practice meditation. Well, a spiritual breakthrough requires the power of your spirit energy, which comes about through concentration and knowing how to preserve this source of energy. When you have strong spirit energy, you only have to focus it on an object and you will have a breakthrough. If you don't have Shen, the light of your concentration will not shine brightly because the light emitted is very weak. These three sources of energy are linked to one another. By practicing one, you help all of them. That is why conscious breathing is so important for our spiritual life. It helps with all of our sources of energy. Monks and nuns do not engage in sexual relationships because they want to devote their energy to having a breakthrough in their meditation practice. They learn to channel their sexual energy to strengthen their spirit energy for the breakthrough. They also practice deep breathing to increase the spirit energy. Since they live alone without a family, they can devote their time to meditation, teaching, and helping others. Water break. In a practice community, if there's no sexual misconduct, there will be stability and peace. Everyone must respect, support, and protect each other as Dharma brothers and sisters. If someone acts irresponsibly, it creates suffering in the community and in the community at large. If a teacher cannot refrain from sleeping with one of his or her students, he or she will destroy everything, possibly for several generations. We need mindfulness in order to have that sense of responsibility. We refrain from sexual misconduct because we are responsible for the well being of so many people. If we are irresponsible, we can destroy everything. By practicing responsible behavior, we keep the Sangha beautiful. In sexual relationships, people can get wounded. Acting responsibly prevents ourselves and others from getting hurt. We often think only women get hurt, but men also get hurt. We have to be very careful. Acting responsibly is a strong way of restoring stability and peace in ourselves, our family, and our society. We should take the time to discuss problems relating to this, like loneliness, advertising, and even the porn industry. The feeling of loneliness is universal. There is often little communication between ourselves and others, even within the family, and our feelings of loneliness pushes us into having sexual relationships casually. We believe in a naive way that having a sexual relationship will make us feel less lonely, but it isn't true. When there is not enough communication with another person on the level of the heart and spirit, a sexual relationship will only widen the gap and destroy us both. Our relationship will be stormy, and we will make each other suffer. The belief that having a sexual relationship will help us feel less lonely is a kind of superstition. We should not be fooled by it. In fact, we will feel more lonely afterwards. Thanks for the thumbs up, you guys. The union of two bodies can only be positive when there is understanding and communion on the level of the heart and spirit. Even between husband and wife, if the communion on the level of heart and spirit does not exist, the coming together of the two bodies will only separate you further. I'm thinking of magnets. When that is the case, I recommend that you refrain from having sexual relationships and first try to make a breakthrough in communication. In practicing sexual responsibility, we should always look into the nature of our love in order to see and not be fooled by our feelings. Sometimes we feel that we love another person, but that love may only be an attempt to satisfy our own egotistic needs. Maybe we have not looked deeply enough to see the needs of the other person, including the need to be safe and feel protected. If we have that kind of breakthrough, we will realize that the other person needs our protection, and therefore, we cannot look upon him or her as just an object of our desire, as a kind of commercial item. Sex is used in our society as a means for selling products. If we don't look at the other person as a human being with the capacity of becoming a Buddha, we risk transgressing the mindfulness training on sexual responsibility. The practice of looking deeply into the nature of our love is very important. Tea break. Suchness, tathata, is a technical term in Buddhism that means true nature. Hakuna Matata, we got tathata. Everything has its suchness. That is how we recognize it. An orange has its suchness. That is why we don't confuse it with a lemon. At Plum Village, we cook with propane gas, and we know its suchness. We know that if it leaks and someone lights a match, it can be very dangerous. But we also know that propane can help us cook a wonderful meal. And that is why we invite it into our house, to live peacefully with us. Each of us has our own suchness. If we want to live in peace and happiness with another person, we have to understand his or her suchness and our own. Once we see it, we will have no trouble living peacefully and happily together. To meditate is to look deeply into the nature of things, including our own nature and the nature of the person in front of us. When we see the true nature of that person, we discover his or her difficulties, aspirations, suffering, and anxieties. We discover his or her difficulties, aspirations, sufferings, and anxieties when we look deeply into the nature of things. when we see the true nature of that person. We can sit down, hold our partner's hands, look deeply at him, and say, "Darling, do I understand you enough? Do I water your seeds of suffering? Do I water your seeds of joy? Please tell me how I can love you better." If we say this from the bottom of our heart, he may begin to cry, and that is a good sign. It means the door of communication may be opening again. So this is what he recommends. Namaste, Mr. Shadow. This is what you say to discover your partner more. You hold their hand and you say, "Darling, do I understand you enough? Do I water your seeds of suffering? Do I water your seeds of joy? Please tell me how I can love you better." True love includes the sense of responsibility, accepting the other person as he is, with all his strengths and weaknesses. If we like only the best things in the person, that is not love. We have to accept his weaknesses and bring our patience, understanding, and energy to help him transform. The expression long-term commitment helps us understand the word love. In the context of true love, commitment can only be long-term. I want to love you. I want to help you. I want to care for you. I want you to be happy. I want to work for happiness. But just for a few days? Does that make sense? We are afraid to make a commitment. We want freedom. But we have to make a long-term commitment to love our son deeply and help him through the journey of life as long as we are alive. We can't just say, "I don't love you anymore." When we have a good friend, we also make a long-term commitment. We need her. How much more so with someone who wants to share our life, our soul, our body? The phrase long-term commitment cannot express the depth of love, but we have to say something so that people understand. Water break. Your strong feelings for each other are very important, but they are not enough to sustain your happiness. Without other elements, what you describe as love may turn sour very soon. We need the support of friends and other people. That is why we have a wedding ceremony. The two families join together with other friends to witness the fact that you have come together to live as a couple. The priest and the marriage license are just symbols. What is important is that your commitment is witnessed by friends and both of your families. Now you will be supported by them. A long-term commitment is stronger and more long-lasting if made in the context of a Sangha. I forget what that is. The support of friends and family coming together weaves a kind of web. The strength of your feelings is only one of the strands of that web. And in some cultures, when friends and family come together, they literally weave you a web of a home. Supported by many elements, the couple will be solid like a tree. To be strong, a tree sends more than one root deep into the soil. If a tree has only one root, it may be blown over by the wind. The life of a couple also needs to be supported by many elements, many roots, families, friends, ideals, practice, and Sangha. I think Sangha means the practice of mindfulness. I'm not sure, I forget. In Plum Village, every time we have a wedding ceremony, the whole community celebrates and brings its support to the couple. After the ceremony, on every full moon day, the couple recites the five awarenesses together, remembering that friends everywhere are supporting their relationship. Whether or not your relationship is bound by law, it will be stronger and more long-lasting if made in the presence of a Sangha. Friends who love you and want to support you in the spirit of understanding and love. Before two people marry, they should practice mindfulness together. And after becoming husband and wife, they should continue to practice the five awarenesses. I mean, when do you say awarenesses, you know? Five awarenesses as a manifestation of their practice of mindfulness. We are aware that all generations of our ancestors and all future generations are present in us. We are aware that all generations of our ancestors and all future generations are present in us. So that's the first awareness. Number 2, we are aware of the expectations that our ancestors, our children, and their children have of us. Hi, Jabri. Number 3, we are aware that our joy, peace, freedom, and harmony are the joy, peace, freedom, and harmony of our ancestors, our children, and their children. Number 4, we are aware that understanding is the very foundation of love. Number 5, we are aware that blaming and arguing never help us and only create a wider gap between us. That only understanding, trust, and love can help us change and grow. In the first awareness, we see ourselves as our element, as one element in a continuation of our ancestors, and as the link to future generations. When we see in this way, we know that by taking good care of our body and consciousness in the present moment, we are taking care of all generations, past and future. The second awareness reminds us that our ancestors have expectations of us and that our children and their children do too. Our happiness is their happiness. Our suffering is their suffering. If we look deeply, we will know what our children and grandchildren expect of us. We may not see them in person yet, but they are already talking to us. They want us to live in a way that they won't be miserable when they manifest. Vietnamese Buddhists see themselves not as individuals separated from their ancestors, but as a continuation representing all previous generations. Actions of the couple do not aim merely at satisfying the spiritual and physical needs of their individual selves, but also at realizing the hopes and expectations of their ancestors and at preparing for future generations. The third awareness tells us how joy, peace, freedom, and harmony are not individual matters. We have to live in ways that allow our ancestors in us to be liberated, which means to liberate ourselves. If we do not liberate them, we ourselves will be bound all our lives and we will transmit that to our children and grandchildren. Now is the time to liberate our parents and ancestors in us. We can offer them joy, peace, freedom, and harmony. At the same time as we offer joy, peace, freedom, and harmony to ourselves, our children, and their children. This reflects the teaching of interbeing. As long as our ancestors in us are still suffering, we cannot really be happy. If we take one step mindfully, freely, happily touching the earth, we do it for all our ancestors and all future generations. The first three awarenesses are all aspects of one deep teaching. We have to continue to study and practice these first three awarenesses to deepen our understanding. Tea break. I'm going to have to put some more hot water up. We've got, just a few more pages. Oh my gosh. I'm doing good. The fourth awareness is also a basic teaching of the Buddha. Where there is understanding, there is love. When we understand the suffering of someone, we are motivated to help, and the energies of love and compassion are released. Whatever we do in this spirit will be for the happiness and liberation of the person we love. But sometimes we destroy the person we love. It is like the American general who said that his fighter bombers had to destroy the city of Bentry in order to save it. We have to practice in a way that whatever we do for others will only make them happy. The willingness to love is not enough. When people do not understand each other, it is impossible for them to love each other. When we marry, we form a Sangha of two in order to practice love. Taking care of each other, making our partner blossom like a flower, and making happiness something real. Happiness is not an individual matter. You should practice smiling at least once a day, not for yourself alone, but also for her. But you should practice walking meditation, not just for her, but for you also. We are linked to many other people and beings. Each step we take, each smile we make, has an effect on everyone around us. Your happiness is the happiness of so many people. Look at an oak tree. The oak tree seems to be happy, and the happiness of the oak tree is the happiness of the birds and all of us. We all benefit from its presence. Your presence and your happiness are also crucial for all of us. If you are happy, we are happy. If you are not happy, we will not be happy. You practice the five awarenesses not only for yourselves, but for everyone. If you practice deeply the vows you made during your wedding ceremony, the whole world will profit. But to help you realize your vows, you need a community, the oak tree, the Sangha, and all of us. Through my love for you, I want to express my love for the whole cosmos, the whole of humanity, and all beings. By living with you, I want to learn to love everyone and all species. If I succeed in loving you, I will be able to love everyone and all species on earth. The wedding vow. This is the real message of love. How can we take big steps before we succeed in taking small steps? In the first 1, 2, or 3 years, this should be our purpose, to realize peace, happiness, and joy in that small Sangha. At the same time, we see our small Sangha In the context of the larger Sangha, we are practicing with the help of our teachers, parents, friends, and all living beings in the animal, vegetable, and mineral worlds. I express my love to the larger Sangha through you. Therefore, I must be able to love you, take care of you, and make you happy. Remember to practice in the context of a community. Do whatever you can to bring happiness to the air, the water, the rocks, the trees, the birds, the humans. If you practice in this spirit, your wedding ring will become the ring of interbeing, of solidarity, of love and understanding. Live your daily life so you feel the presence of the community with you all the time. Touch the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha within your heart. And you will receive the kind of energy you need every time you confront difficulties in your life and the life of the world. The world needs you to be mindful, to be aware of what is going on. Your coming together is an occasion for you to practice more deeply and to get the support you need. Each moment of our lives, each moment that is given to us to live, we have to live very deeply. If you are capable of living deeply one moment of your life, you can learn to live the same way all the other moments of your life. The French poet René Char said, "If you can dwell in one moment, you will discover eternity." Make each moment an occasion to live deeply, happily, in peace. Each moment is a chance for us to make peace with the world, to make peace possible for the world, to make happiness possible for the world. The world needs our happiness. The practice of mindful living can be described as the practice of happiness, the practice of love. The capacity of being happy, the capacity of being loving, is what we have to cultivate in our lives. Understanding is the very foundation of love. And looking deeply is the basic practice. Everyone knows that blaming and arguing never help, but we forget. We get triggered. That is why we practice the fifth awareness. Conscious breathing helps us develop the ability to stop at that crucial moment to keep ourselves from blaming and arguing. All of us need to change for the better. When we marry, we make a promise to change ourselves and to help the other person change himself or herself so we can grow together, sharing the fruit and progress of practice. It is our responsibility to take care of each other. We are the gardener, the one who helps the flowers grow. If we understand, the flowers will grow beautifully. Every time the other person does something well, something in the direction of change and growth, we should congratulate her or him to show our approval. This is important. We don't take things for granted. If the other person manifests some of her talent and capacity to love and create happiness, we must be aware of it and express our appreciation. This is the way to water the seeds of happiness. We should avoid saying destructive things like, "I don't know whether you can do this," or "I doubt that you can do this." Instead, we say, "This is difficult, darling, but I have faith that you can do it." This kind of talk makes the other person stronger. This is true with children also. We have to strengthen the self esteem of our children. We have to appreciate and congratulate every good thing they say and do in order to help our children grow. When we are married, we can love each other in a way that encourages change and growth for the better all the time. For those who have been married for 10 or 20 years, this kind of practice is also relevant. You can continue to live in mindfulness and continue to learn from the other person. You may have the impression that you know everything about your spouse, but it's not so. I release the right to know who you are. Nuclear scientists study one speck of dust for many years, and they still do not claim to understand everything about it. If a speck of dust is like that, how can a person say that he or she knows everything about the other person? Driving the car, paying attention only to your own thoughts, you just ignore your spouse. You think, I know everything about her. There is nothing new in her anymore. That is not correct. If you treat her that way, she will die slowly. She needs your attention, your gardening, your taking care of her. We have to learn the art of creating happiness. If during our childhood we saw our mother or father do things that created happiness in the family, we already know what to do. But if our parents did not know how to create happiness, we may not know how to do it. So, in our practice community, we try to learn the art of making people happy. The problem is not one of the problem is not one of being wrong or right, but one of being more or less skillful. Living together is an art. Even with a lot of goodwill, you can still make the other person very unhappy. Hmm, true. Goodwill is not enough. We need to know the art of making people in your making wait. We need to know the art of making the other person happy. Art is the essence of life. Try to be artful in your speech and action. The substance of art is mindfulness. When you are mindful, you are more artful. This is something I've learned from the practice. And that is the end of chapter 8. Thank you so much for reading with me, everyone. Ironically, when I opened this book, a love note from an ex-boyfriend popped out. Very strange, but interesting. I hope that brought some peace to your being, some calm, some connection, some deeper awareness with those 5 awarenesses. I hope as you go to sleep tonight that you are aware that you are all your ancestors and all of your children. Blessings to all of you peacemakers out there. Keep up the good work and get some rest.